So one of my followers said, I have a legacy that cannot be forgotten, repeated, or underestimated. I appreciate that. Salute, salute. It gave me something to think about. I was thinking about that overnight. And I was thinking about how I got started and the seed that my mom planted in me for me to be on the journey that I'm on now, independently. And when I think about that statement, I grew up in an area where it was lack of opportunities. And I was looking up to people that I probably shouldn't have been looking up to, but that's all I had around me. So I embraced that. And my mom used to always tell me, she said, son, you a leader. And I used to laugh at her. I'm like, Mama, what you talking about? I didn't even really know what a leader was. I was young then. She said, but you're going to have to make a choice one day. Are you going to lead people down the right direction? Or are you going to lead people down the wrong direction? Later in life, I really embraced that and understand what she was saying. Being born in Little Rock, Arkansas, and raised in McGee and Arkansas City and Reed, these are southern plantational towns, cotton fields. There was always a struggle. I remember going into cotton fields before I was even a teenager just to get school clothes. And I remember going out there with my mom, and on the first day, me and some more kids, we was chopping the cotton down because that's what they said we was doing, chopping cotton. So we was chopping the cotton down, and the folks got to yelling at us, man, get them kids. Somebody tell them what they need to be doing. We was up there, we supposed to be chopping the grass around the cotton family, but we chopping the cotton down. We that young. But that's how we was making our money for, get our school clothes and at that time, helping mama pay bills. And I was young, family. I wasn't even a teenager because by the time I was a teenager, I was in the streets hustling. So I learned things the hard way. I learned work ethics, and I wasn't embarrassed to go out there and sweat hard. I wasn't embarrassed to not have too much nothing. I remember one time my mom rented a tin house in Arkansas City, and every time it rained or did anything, you hear everything. And my mom made a game out of it with me and my sister, talking about, we ain't gonna be in no tin house, but listen to how it rains and this and this. And it was literally like 10-10, like, it was a shack. But it was cool to be able to experience things like that because it humbled me and it made me stronger to face adversity as I go through things. And I really wasn't aware of how it was shifting and molding me. And then later in life, I ended up getting into the streets. And by the time I'm 15 years old, I'm facing a life sentence. And I end up going down at 16 with 14, well, with 20 years and 6 suspended, end up doing 10 years, going back for a year, 11, you know what I mean? Like the struggle with the prison system was unreal. The way it programs and manipulates the mind, and you get out of there, and I'm gonna be honest with you. Now that I'm been out of prison, I can see how I see how I was unrealistic getting out. Salute, salute. Thanks for checking in. Thanks for checking in. I can see how I was unrealistic of how to do certain things when I got released. I got married before I got released. And my mom had told me not to do that. She was like, don't do that. The girl might be a good girl to, get out. I understand you've been locked up a decade, 10 years. You want to, have a friend. That's cool. I'm not saying that's not who she is, but I don't think you should jump into marriage. And, I did, anyway. And, we learn things from our stumbles and mistakes. And through it all, going through that, getting out, working for someone else for 10 years with the trade of welding after, learning welding in prison, in Votech, taking combination of welding. And I actually did like 14 months of combination of welding and getting that, and then actually getting out, working for someone for 10 years, like just doing a job. To me, on the job was just like being in prison. It was so much control. I'm like, man, I love the trade. I like to make, I want to make money. I know I got bills to pay. I want to take care of my family, but it made almost like I didn't even want to do the trade no more because of the oppression I was getting out of it. I couldn't, it was always somebody with their thumb on me, and I couldn't enjoy the trade, so I decided to start my own. And when you jump out and start on your own, you have people that will say, yes, I'm down, I want to, be behind what you're doing, this and this, but there's going to be struggles because you're taking a risk. A business is not promised, family. It's not promised that you succeed, but it is promised that most are going to fail. You know what I mean? So the odds are against you. So when you have a trade, the good thing about having that, you just have to find your niche. You have to find, okay, what type of service, what type of product, how can I replace my income? How can I benefit from having a trade like this? Good rising, family, good rising. Thank y'all for checking in. So I wanted to talk about how I embraced all of that, how I figured out my direction in the desert in Phoenix, Arizona. You know how they say Moses found himself in the desert in the burnt, and he seen the burning bush. It was kind of ironic because literally that's how I found myself, which is finding products and coming up with product over talent and realizing that even if I have a service, a physical service, I can go out, I still be judged. I still be judged by what I look like, by my past. But when I have a product, when I have something on the shelf, I'm not judged by who I am or where I'm coming from. I'm judged by, is this a good product or not? Salute. Thanks for checking in. Kenny, thanks for checking in. So, I realized that in order to have a legacy, in order for even someone to say that you have a legacy, you have to endure something. You have to go through something where to the average person, they wouldn't even seen how you made it. Sometimes I even have people tell me like, man, I don't know how you survive during that time, and then you get out not on the mind frame of some of the people that they see coming out of prison now. He's like, man, how did you change your mind? I talked to some of these dudes that's been gone for 10 years and 15 years, man, they messed up. Like, what did you do? And I kept what I wanted to do in front of my eyes. I kept knowledge and ways I could improve myself. And I knew what I had to do. I knew I couldn't get out of here and not have something solid. I knew I had to have something solid that I could actually use to open up a door. I could actually use to create a better future for myself. And that was welding, So I used welding as a tool, and it was a seed that my mom planted because she planted that seed in me, and then now today, 2022, I'm inside of my mom's house, teaching welding, doing fabrication, coming up with ideas, working on the house, doing renovations. And it's humbling, family, because it all started from a seed. And the part that can't be repeated, I think, when she said it can't be repeated, sometimes, I think about this day and age, you're not going to see nobody in the cotton fields no more, doing the type of hard labor, us going back to those days when, when slavery was really, really potent in the South. Things are changing, but we can't say that it don't exist, but things are changing. And I don't want no one to repeat my footsteps, especially the adolescents that's growing up and thinking the only thing is, is to represent their hood and rob and steal and kill and rape and just do things that would later cause them to be confined and in prison for life or a majority of their lives, or the loved ones that they lost or will lose, or the people that they hurt in the process. And now it's so ironic that when I went to prison, it was due to that Bill Clinton act, and that's why an issue with Joe Biden, because I know he had a part of that. They locked us up and charged a lot of people in Arkansas prison, a lot of juveniles as adults that shouldn't have been charged as adults, and they threw us down there with all of these grown, real adults, these real sex offenders, these real rapers, murderers, robbers, and we had to survive in that situation. You know what I mean? And then later they say the mind isn't fully developed into 25, but you would charge a 15, a 14, a 16-year-old, 17-year-old like they're grown men. Surely we have to be corrected from our wrongs, but there's ways to correct us without damaging us for life. That prison system actually was designed to damage some people for life, to have forever jobs for people in the local community. Like, they recruiting and hiring people now and have swing shifts where it's a forever job. It's a forever comfort to take care of someone who we couldn't take care of when they're young, and now they have to grow up in that prison system. So, the legacy that I want to leave behind with HogOn and what I'm doing independently is to overcome that. Show someone who literally started out couldn't read, and literally, I know how to count, but I couldn't read. Family, I learned how to do that in prison, and that's how I got my GED. I sat down, and I had some older people sit me down. We were sitting down reading and writing and going through things, and I had to apply myself. So you can be at a negative standpoint in your life, and you can literally use your will to want to do better and take your life to another level. And that's when you start creating that legacy, because you have a path, and it's all documented, how you survived and what you went through and how you overcame that situation. And with me, myself, it was just ironic that my mom planted that seed with welding, and how this is the legacy that I want to leave behind and do some bigger things. And even though each stage in life you have to start from somewhere, starting from the garage, before the garage, starting from beside the RV, before that, working for someone, you know what I mean? Like, every day, didn't even think about knowing the business. It's like, okay, I just, I'm gonna make this, little money an hour until I didn't have another vision. So I feel like everything we do can be stepping stones, but we have to have a vision, and we have to see someone else that actually did it, that survived. So that's why I never switched it up. Kept my beard, my gold teeth, salute. That way, someone from my culture, someone from the same background can be like, I know a brother that survived. I know a brother that came from nothing, who took it and created something. And he became rich once he found his peace. And see, sometimes we get thinking it's a number. And I'm not saying you can't make that number. You can't get that millionaire. I want to hit that status. You know what I mean? Ain't nothing wrong with wanting to be there, but let's be realistic and know that being rich doesn't really mean a number. It's being at peace. It's having the things it's not having to ask for things that you want, or need, so to speak. You got all your wants and needs, and you at peace with just living life. Like, being rich is far more in depth than what I thought it was growing up. So, today I just wanted to kind of share my story and just kind of say, it was impressive that someone would say that I had a legacy like that I'm actually building something. And even though that in the back of my mind and every day I grind, I want to build something, but it's not about just having something or having a statue like the Statue of Liberty that you can go and admire, like, oh, I like this, but actually knowing why it's there. If I leave something, if I leave that hog behind, when everybody will see it, they know that hog means survival. It means hustling over grounded obstacles naturally. It means honoring our generation, ornamental nature, so people can really understand that this guy came from zero. He was actually someone they said that wouldn't have made it to be 18. You know, I had even family tell me that I shouldn't even been born. Like, man, your daddy shouldn't even have kids. You should be blessed just to be here. You know, and now I know that he had a child. I know he probably, let me come see y'all. Y'all might have some issues. I like family. Like, once you go back and you get to seeing history and knowing where you come from, I mean, it's amazing how you are a survival story and didn't even know it. You know what I mean? So everybody has a past, but some of us have a mission to survive. Some of us have a God given gift that we're here for a reason, not to just live and be selfish, but to actually pass something down and enhance someone else. Let me see what you said. Let me see what you said before I keep going. Salute, salute. I appreciate it. You know what? It's always good to see someone that come from the same struggle. See someone who's surviving. See someone who's pushing and thriving. Like, sometimes, family, we don't know how we want to make it day to day sometimes, but we got to take it day by day. You know, and I listen to people get emotional and when it comes to the pandemic and things that's going on in this nation, and we forgot, or we're forgetting the fact that we all got to go one day, family. And I think that the media is kind of pushing people to go before their time with worrying and taking things they might shouldn't take, and, you know, indulging in activities, and, you know, so, you know, it's just crazy that we need someone realistic just to say, hey man, while we're here, we have to plant a seed and have a vision, and then put the work ethics behind it, because just because you had a vision or just because you have one, it's not gonna come to pass, family, if you don't do anything. You gotta do some work ethics. You're gonna knock on some doors. You're gonna have to survive something. You gotta go through something. We got to endure something in order to have that legacy, in order to live to be remembered, in order to get our hog on, you know. And that's why, you know, from a hood standpoint, you know, because there's a lot of hoods in America. And I remember Dolomite, when he came up with his movie idea, they said, man, you know, we make movies for, you know, bigger than just 2 blocks. He said, well, you know what? I know it's these same 2 blocks everywhere in America. And there's gonna be somebody on them blocks that gonna want to see this. You know what I mean? So there's someone that's going through something everywhere. And to have someone that's actually doing all they can, going against the odds, pushing, fighting, learning, being humble, growing, I mean, it's exciting to know. It's encouraging to know that someone can even look into my life and speak a word into me. Like, all the time, I'm always getting certain words spoken into me. I'm humble, family. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know it all. But as I learn, I'm just willing to share what I learned. You know, when I make mistakes, I'm like, you know what? I messed up on that one. You know, use me. You ain't got to go through that. You just use me. You don't have to do that time. You know, Youngster, you don't have to do that. You don't have to go do no 10 years. You ain't gotta do that. I did. I messed up. You know, I was looking up to the wrong people. I didn't have a vision. I didn't look out. I didn't think outside of the box. But we have to look within ourselves and say, you know what? What is it that I want to do? And we are born with something that we have a true passion for. And you can literally do it. But it comes with some guidance. It comes with some soul searching. It comes with some endurance. It comes with some struggles. You know, we have to go through the growing pains. You know what I mean? Things are not going to be easy all the time. But I just wanted to say, family, that anything is possible. And I'm humbled to know that the legacy that I'm building with HogOn, that if you go back in my archives the last 2-3 years, you'll see how I have been evolving. And that's one thing you can always tell by a successful person or someone who's going to be successful, because they're not going to stand still. They're not going to be in the same position they was every year. They're going to grow in some way, with conversation, with in-depth, with business, with knowledge, with possessions. There's going to be something they're going to be doing. So the proof is always in the pudding, as the old folks would say. So when you are seeking someone to be a mentor, I want to say this because a lot of times it's so much faultiness on the internet. There's so many people trying to sell you a dream, trying to get you to invest in them and not you. You know, and I say that because when I teach my independent classes, yes, you are investing in my business to teach, but you're investing in you because I'm an OG that actually gives you a bag that'll never run out. You know, I'm not going to give you a bag where you can make a little money and you got to come back and dub up with me again. Now, you can take this bag that I'm going to give you and you can keep dubbing up on it. And you can pass it down to your kids and their kids and they can keep dubbing up on it. You know what I mean? Because that's what we do. That's how we're supposed to do it. And at first, I didn't fully understand it, but now I do. So I embrace the title of OG for those who call me. I didn't call myself that, you know what I mean? So it's like being called. I heard a person say, I never knew a person that called themselves just to hold a conversation. Nah, but once it hits your spirit and it's in you to do a certain thing, we can be like Noah, so to speak, and we can say, you know what, I'm not going over there. I mean, not Noah. We can be like Jonah, and we say, you know what, I'm not going over there and talk to those people. They're going to do whatever. I'm going to go this way. And we can go that way and we can get swallowed up, you know what I'm saying, by a big fish and have to endure something and then get spit out and say, you know what, I'm going to go over here real quick and go and do what you said. You know, I'm going to humble myself. So I think that it's good to just lead by example, to know that when you got a purpose, it's going to figure its way out. And you're going to have growing pains. There's going to be things that we have to deal with. It's going to be childhood issues. So I would say, get you some therapy, talk to somebody. Don't be afraid to talk to nobody, black man. Don't be afraid to talk to nobody, period, queens, period, anyone. Don't be afraid to address your issues because, especially coming from rural areas, we have a lot of issues that we never address. And once you start addressing certain things, you'll start seeing the pattern of how it was keeping you down or had you going through certain emotions at certain times. So it's wise to reach out and get some guidance when needed, you know. So I just wanted to check in and just talk about that because it gave me something to think about. It gave me something to think about that it says if you keep at what you're doing and you're really sincere about doing it, then you won't have to tell anybody about it. Someone else will. Y'all keep getting your HogOn, be blessed, and continue to prosper. Black Feniks.